In this episode, I want to tell you that your vote counts. Hey, what's going on? My name is Michael Sahno. Welcome to the Sea and Land Fitness Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. So head on over to www.sandlfit.com. That's sandlfit.com and pick up your hats, your Merca patches. We got sweatshirts. I'm wearing the sweatshirt. They're coming soon. They're not on the website yet, but we got Sunto watches and Garmin watches and everything that you need for your military fitness journey. This episode is also brought to you graciously by 511 Tactical. You could see the 511 Tactical gear in the background there. Makers of some of the best tactical equipment and fitness equipment out there, as well as it's also brought to you by Thorne. Thorne is a supplement company that does third-party verification on the ingredients that go into their supplements so that what is on the bottle is in the bottle. All right. Hey, welcome to the show. This is not going to be a somber episode. It is also not going to be a political episode. But I am going to talk to you a little bit about what I said in the beginning of the podcast, and that is that your vote counts and that it's important. And we're going to talk this episode about decision making, okay, which is going to be, if by the time this is out, the newsletter will be out. And that is what the general theme of this month's newsletter is about sports psychology and decision making. And hey, it's one of the most important decisions you can make is to go and vote, no matter which way you vote. So I'm going to tell you a story. I've been telling people this story over the past couple of weeks because everyone's up in arms about, the tension with the election and the presidential election and the local races as well. So on the last day of the Roman Empire, a bread maker went into his bakery and made bread. And then Rome fell. And then what do you think he did the very next day? He woke up, went to the bakery, and made bread. Okay, so the world continues after this, regardless of which tribe you're in, which side you're on, who you think is evil. It's all going to work out. It's worked out for, I think the most recent is 275,000 years. It's either 175 or 275,000 years that human beings have been on this planet. And with the exception of a nuclear war, not to get so negative, but with the exception of something that catastrophic or a meteor hitting, we're all going to have to get up tomorrow or the day after the election and go in and make bread, because that's what we do. So don't sweat it. But what I will say is that if you're in the United States, you're in one of the greatest countries on the planet because you get to go and vote. You get to exercise that right. Like, I know someone, they don't like to vote. They don't think it matters. But I said to that person, I was in the military for 10 years so that you could go do that. There are places that I've been where you don't vote. You're not allowed. It's decided for you who's in charge. All of the things in your life are decided for you, sometimes down to the prices of things. So if you have the opportunity, go to vote. And that person said, you know what? I'm going to vote. And I think I'm going to put Abraham Lincoln as a write-in. So I said, that's fine. That's perfect. Do that. But just know that even if your side doesn't win, the person or peoples that you chose to vote for don't win, it's fine, because the process is the most important part. And nothing will ever get so squirrely that you hopefully won't be able to get up the next day and go to the bakery and make bread. So that's my spiel on election stuff. And that's as political as I'm willing to get on this podcast. All right, I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Peter Madeira, this is for you. So a ton of fun stuff's happening. We're rolling into November. The second issue of our Honey Badger Bulletin, the newsletter, is coming out. And as I'm so lucky with this it's not an episode, what's it called, this edition of the newsletter that's coming out, because I have got a wonderful guest who is going to be in the Honey Badger spotlight, and that is one of my mentors in sports psychology, Dr. Derek Mann, PhD. He was gracious enough to fill out the questions and appear in the Honey Badger spotlight. So you're going to need to check that out. And if you don't have the newsletter, you don't get the newsletter, you're not on the list, then go over to www.sandlfit.com. That's sandlfit.com. And a pop-up will show up. And that pop-up, I'm scratching my shoulder, sorry. And that pop-up will allow you to put your email in and subscribe to the newsletter. And I strongly encourage you to do that. I also strongly encourage you, in the newsletter, I have ads for these same companies that that sponsor this show. You should definitely go there. The Thorne stuff, I give you 10% off. And the 511 stuff, bomb-proof stuff. I use the sandbags in the videos that I did, because yes, I did the videos for the fitness programs. November is my big editing month to get the memberships and everything ready. So that's going to be happening all month long. I'm just going to be sitting and going through all the videos, trying to assemble and edit all of these fitness videos for the fitness program. I'm super excited about it. I have photos for the exercise that is in the newsletter, and those photos are actually from the video. And I'm not going to tell you what the exercise is. You're going to have to get the newsletter to find out. It is one of my key go-to exercises. I do it every single time I work out. But you're going to have to check it out. You're definitely going to have to check it out. And I write an article every month for it, which I'm super excited about. And it's on decision making, and it's on making good decisions. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit on what I wrote in there. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but you'll get an idea of what it was. So I wrote about decision making and making good decisions. And I don't mean morally good decisions. So that's one of the problems that I have with modern psychology, is this thing called the valence system, or the valence model. And the valence model sounds super scientific, but it is not, in my opinion. In my academic opinion, the valence model is neither scientific or a good metric for deciding what it, and I'm going to use the valence values, positive and negative, for a positive impact. I don't think the valence model is good for a positive impact on your health. Okay. So what is the valence model? The valence model is basically moralizing, and it's changed throughout the years. It's changed throughout the years and defines behavior. So I am in, and I'm not totally in that camp, and I have to go into this in order to be able to describe to you what I find wrong with the model. So decades ago, probably over a century ago, they came up with good behavior and bad behavior. And we all know that. We all know that from our parents' perspective. So think about, that's not good behavior. Don't do that to your brother. Don't do that to your sister. We had all of these ideas on what was good behavior and what was bad behavior. So the valence model takes all these morally righteous, I would even say, ideas and applies these morally righteous ideas to personal behaviors by categorizing them as positive or negative. Okay. So some of them I would agree with. Drug use, negative. Yes, but why is it negative? Is it negative because drug use is an addictive behavior? Is it negative because drug use, because drugs are bad? Or is it negative from my physiological and behaviorist point of view? Is it negative because it literally poisons the cells? So by that metric, smoking is a negative behavior and drinking is a negative behavior. And I'll agree with those. But interestingly, I don't 100% agree with those. I do believe that having some beer is healthy because we need emotional release. I do believe that, some tobacco use is positive if it helps overcome trauma or allows you to deal with trauma. Are there better ways? Absolutely, 100%. Am I telling you to use tobacco and alcohol? No. What I'm telling you, though, is from an objective lens, we can see how some of these things are not 100% negative. There will be detrimental effects on the physiology of the body. You'll hurt your cells by smoking, your lung cells. You'll hurt your brain cells by drinking. But what's the trade-off? You know what I mean? You're not an alcoholic. You are enjoying a night out with the guys or the girls. So does that balance as a net positive versus a net negative? Well, in the valence model, there is no balance. There is no balance at all. In the valence model, all decisions are either positive 100% or negative 100%. And I don't agree with that. I'm trying to think of other instances of that, but I'm going to wind up going on a segue if I go down to that. Go deeper into that. So what we're going to do is, now I've described to you what the valence model is and why I have a problem with it. I don't think actions are inherently good or bad. So I'm going to step on a landmine with this one. Let me take another sip of coffee. Hold on. All right. So growing up as a this is going to be going to be in so much trouble. So as a kid, I grew up watching this television show called Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And I remember this one episode about lions, and the lions were chasing the antelope and they tore the antelope down to the ground. And I was fascinated by it. Don't worry, I'm not some psycho. I wasn't like, ooh, blood. No, not like that. But it changed my understanding of the world around me. It changed my understanding of the moralization of certain things. So, we're taught, interestingly, not to kill, which is good. Why do we do that? Because from an objective point of view, what do we want? We want propagation. We want the species to continue. Purely scientific point of view. We want species propagation. We want more of us so that we become stronger as a group, not just a social group, but an actual natural group that exists in the universe. So we've pumped the brakes on this personal violence, okay? But ironically, personal violence is something that just existed all the way back. So you go to the Bible and, Cain and Abel, we're seeing violence and the ability for violence and some might even argue the need for violence in human behavior. Why am I bringing that up? So I personally believe academically that violence is a part of the human experience. I do not think that it is either negative or positive, morally good or morally wrong. The structures that we set up for when to engage in this violence is what makes them morally good or morally wrong. And I'm okay with that. You need that. You need rules for society to maintain itself, but you also need a population within that society to be violent. And ironically, we have encouraged that throughout even the modern last 100 years. So when I was a kid, my great grandfather was in World War I. My grandfather was in World War II, in the South Pacific, and my dad was in Vietnam. He did 3 tours in Vietnam. And as a kid, we made these rifles out of wood. We would cut them up with a hacksaw and everything and sand them down so they look like, a World War II rifle. And we would run around in the woods and we would pew, 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 do all that stuff and play Army. And one day I was playing a video game, Tom Clancy Ghost Recon. And my wife comes in and she says, "Oh, playing Army?" And I was like, "No, I'm not playing. Oh my gosh, I'm playing Army. I'm playing Army." So there was this entire push during the Clinton administration, to, I think it was the Clinton administration. Yeah, right? To knock down the violence in video games, to knock down the violence in music. And I am of the idea that needs to be expressed, but expressed in a socially non-damaging way. And video games are the perfect way. They're the going out and playing. Call of Duty is the playing Army of today. And anyone who's got a problem with that is a knucklehead, because it is a way to burn off some steam, in the same way that athletics are a way to burn off steam, in the same way that I said sports, but in the same way as working out is burning off steam. These are aggressive physical movements that are needed. And ironically, I believe that the satisfaction of those tendencies allows for more sound decision making, because you don't become so clouded with the emotional baggage of stress, the emotional baggage of aggravation, the emotional baggage of things not going your way. You know what I mean? Why did I bring that up specifically? Because you tend to find, interestingly, and I find it in the weirdest places, martial artists, people who, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, kung fu, karate, taekwondo, they're the individuals who are least likely to get into a fight. Why? Because an exercising of that aggression, a flexing of that aggressive muscle, leads to better decision making. I know this is a loop. I know this is going around the corner, and I know that someone somewhere is going, oh my gosh, I can't believe that guy just said to be violent. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not giving license to those who want to be violent. What I am doing is giving license to attack those aggressive tendencies and emotional states and to drive them into something that can be more productive. Because if you can balance that, then your decision making becomes so much easier. It becomes so much clearer. You are able to actually take a step back. So that's one of the big things, is those who exercise that aggressive flex can step back and take a moment at the appropriate time, and then therefore do not make rash decisions. Now, this is my hypothesis. I don't have data to back this up. It's experiential data on my part and from discussing this with other people. But I think that one of the reasons why we become so aggressive and make poor decisions, because a lot of decisions, poor decisions, are when's the last poor decision that you made that you really contemplated? You know what I mean? What's the and we've all made bad decisions. We've all made bad decisions. But what is the I hiccuped. I'm sorry. What's the last bad decision that you made that was planned? Now, there are some, you know what I mean? There are people in the stock market who do a ton of analysis. We just watched the movie Midway when all of the analysts and intel guys were saying, we've got to keep the Navy at Coral Sea. Don't move them to Midway. So there are instances where a lot of planning goes into a bad decision. But on a personal level, what's the last bad decision that you planned out? And the flip of that is, what's the last good decision that you made? And it could be a simple decision, but what's the last good decision that you made that you didn't take a moment and say, I wonder? So I'm going to give you an example. So there were, I live in the middle of nowhere. I live across the river from West Point in very rural, very, very rural Hudson Valley, the Hudson Valley. So we don't get a lot of people walking around on the street. We just don't. And if we do, it's someone walking their dog. And it's someone I've said hi to about a gajillion times. So the other night, I'm looking across the street, and 2 adult males and 2 adult females were walking around, and they had their hoodies up and everything. And they looked, I'm going to admit, I had bias because I didn't know them. So bias is a naturally occurring aspect of perception. You have bias. I have bias. So I saw these people who were 4 people, and they had their hoodies up, and they were looking for something, and they were looking at a house, and that house was dark. So I made an assessment. These people look suspicious. This is weird. I don't understand this. I never see 4 people randomly on the street where I live. So I walked upstairs, looked out the window, and I contemplated calling the police and saying, hey, there's 4 suspicious people. The old man in me. It's the old man in me. It's my dad. It's my grandfather. I know. But I got to the top of the stairs, and I'm looking out the window, and then all of a sudden they start shaking hands, and you could tell that they were going to separate and go home. 2 of them. And I went, oh my gosh, that's my neighbor's kid. I know who that is. I took a moment. I told myself, take a deep breath, take a second look. Is it what you're thinking? If I had called the police and reported suspicious people, that would have really stunk. And it would have created a social dynamic that would not have been fun to be around. But because I took the time and took a deep breath and took a second look, I was able to make what I think was a good decision. And it also taught me, that experience taught me, don't always believe your perception, your initial perception. So I don't know. I think that's an important story though. And I think there's an important lesson in there to help you understand that good decisions are taken over a breath, and your bad decisions, 9 times out of 10, are impulsive and immediate. There's a time though to trust your gut. I'm just saying your gut will be there after you take a deep breath. And with this election and everything, everyone just needs to take a deep breath. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right. Hey, I just wanted to cover a couple of things and talk about decision making. I hope it wasn't a ramble, and I hope it made sense, and I hope it helped you. But I wanted to address the angst in the room, and all of the tension and a little bit of aggression on both sides toward the other side, and just say, hey, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Everyone just take a breath and make good decisions. All right. That's all I got for you guys. As I said in the beginning, this episode was brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. So head on over to www.sandlfit, that's sandlfit.com, and pick up your gear, man. We got bumper stickers, we got watches, we got all kinds of stuff. We have more stuff coming. I'm going to rearrange the website a little bit, so when you get to the website, you see some of what we got, and that'll take you directly to the store section of the website. And we have the memberships coming at the end of November. That's my deadline. It's my hard line in the sand. So I'm going to be running through November trying to get those videos up there for you. And we're going to have a couple of free ones, like a sandbag workout and a calisthenics workout, for those of you. And that's going to be for our veterans and for people who've never worked out before, just to get yourself going. And I'm going to set that up and give that to you guys free. Also, don't forget 511 Tactical, Thorne Supplements. Hit those links in the description, and that's all I got for you. Later, honey badgers. Out.